Hey, Brian.
Hey, what's up, John?
Hey, everybody listening. Welcome to the Casual Movie Club.
This is the podcast where John and I watch a movie at our choosing,
The whole movie.
and we review it and rate it for your listening pleasure.
And where do we get our movie selection from?
Well, we get them from a couple of different places. The past few times, primarily we've been getting them from IMDb's top 250 rated films.
Right, because there have been some great movies on that list, and then there have been some that are a little harder to sit through.
Some real stinkers.
Right.
I wouldn't say stinkers, but...
Well, one of them is a little bit of a stinker. Persona. Sorry, had something in my throat there.
Persona was fun, though.
Really?
I mean, it was fun to talk about.
Well, yeah, because I know you were all about the surprise dick.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't love a surprise dick?
That's true. I mean...
Yeah, I think a lot of the fun of this, even if the film is bad, is just ripping it apart afterwards.
Right, but, if you asked me if I wanted to rip apart tonight's movie, I would not have said "As You Wish."
You would not have.
I would not have said that.
I know you wouldn't have. You were really excited when this came up.
I was. Week. And by the way, speaking of this, the movie that we did was The Princess Bride.
Inconceivable.
It was very conceivable.
It was conceivable.
Right.
That came out of nowhere.
And this is one of my many all-time favorite movies. And, I watched this. I did not see it in the theater when it first came out because I believe it was from 1987. Was it 87?
I don't know.
Okay, well, whenever it was late 80s. But actually, I have the IMDb thing right over here. It is 1987, yeah. And got an 8.1 out of 10 on IMDb with 345,751 ratings. So
highly rated,
but definitely a movie that has drawn quite the following. Because I was reading some of the trivia, and it did not do overly well in the box office. But
really?
Yeah. But it's kind of developed something of a cult following.
Well, yeah.
Which makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, this is one of those movies that you can sit down and become completely absorbed in and enjoy it. And this is also one of those films that is light and fluffy enough that you can just have it on in the background.
Right.
As you're like folding laundry or doing housework or just having a conversation with friends and kind of come in and out of it and still thoroughly enjoy it.
Right. And you can get pulled in at so many different places in the movie. So it's not like you have to be watching from the beginning to the end. Mm-hmm. You can be, like you said, have it on in the background, folding laundry. Then you look up and then you're seeing the scene where, Inigo is fighting Wesley for the first time, and then you get pulled into that fight, and then you see how Wesley bests Andre the Giant, and you get pulled in right there. There's so many places where you can easily get pulled in this movie. But before I forget, I've got to ask you, what did you think of it? Because as I mentioned earlier, this is one of my all-time favorite movies. So I've seen this. I've probably watched this at least a dozen times a year for the last couple of years. I mean, I love this movie.
Yeah, you mentioned that you've seen this more times than you can even count.
Right.
I've seen it probably half a dozen times.
Okay.
And really, I've only sat down to watch it all the way through maybe a couple of times.
Okay.
Now, I love this movie. It's great. It's just never come up that often in any of my viewing sessions. It's really been one of those movies that has been on in the background for me for most of my viewings.
Yeah. So is this something you might sit down with your wife and watch? And by the way, congratulations again.
Oh, thanks.
Would you
recently got married?
That's right. Yeah, recently got married, and we're going to be off for a couple of weeks while you are on your honeymoon. So have fun.
Oh,
Enjoy.
I will. Traveling through Ireland.
Very nice.
Very similar countryside to The Princess Bride.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
rolling hills, deep ravines.
I want to see lots of pictures.
Cliffs of insanity.
And then the fire swamp.
And the fire swamp, yeah.
Right.
We won't be going to the fire swamp.
That's good.
But
at least you know what to expect if you do go there.
Yeah.
Because there's the three main terrors of the fire swamp. There's the the flames that come out from the ground, which there's a little noise beforehand.
Easily avoidable as long as you know to listen for the noise.
Right. And then there's the lightning sand, which we'll talk about that in a minute. And then there's the ROUSs, the rodents of unusual size.
Yes. They are very large. And
they are real, by the way.
Yeah. And because of those rodents of unusual size,
right,
we will not be visiting the swamp.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
What was your original question? If I like this movie?
Yes.
I love this movie. It's highly quotable. I just disappointed that I haven't seen it as often as I could have.
And hey, nothing wrong with that because of now the movie is so readily available. It has such a cult following, so it's definitely something you can watch whenever you want.
Yeah, I do remember you asked if this was something I would sit down and watch with my wife. This is something that we would sit down and watch together, but because I think it's so ubiquitous, everyone we're both familiar with it.
Yeah.
It would turn into one of those background movies as we like chat or just do something around the house.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. It's such a fun movie to sit through.
Oh yeah.
So I've got to ask you, do you have a favorite part, or what was the what was the scene that stuck out to you during this movie?
All of the sword fights.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of choreographed fight scenes, particularly sword fights. There was a Renaissance fair that I frequented every single year in my younger years growing up. Ever since I was little, all the way up to late high school, I would go every year with my parents. And it was the fight scenes, the sword fights. I love that kind of stuff. So of the sword fights that were in this film, which are actually surprisingly very few, there's only 3 that I can think of off the top of my head. But the first one with Wesley, aka the Man in Black, and Inigo Montoya.
Inigo Montoya. Inigo Montoya.
I've had a few. I've enjoyed a few.
Him. Mandy Patinkin. Yeah.
Yes. The first sword fight it was my favorite.
Yeah, I can totally get behind that. And interestingly enough, I was reading the trivia because I had seen the movie so many times. I was looking at the trivia on my phone during the movie and everything. Cary Elwes and Mandy Patinkin, that was actually them doing the sword fighting. It was
really?
not. It was not. There were no doubles.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yep, they actually learned how to do all. They studied very rigorously for. I can't remember if it was a couple of months or like a full month, but they studied very, very rigorously in order to get the sword fighting down, which amazingly enough, the both of them actually fought left and right-handed.
Yeah, and that was something that they both, character-wise, brought up. They started off the fight left-handed,
right.
Both of them left-handed. Inigo Montoya was saying to his comrades before they went away, I don't want to end it too quickly, so I'll fight him with my left hand. But then when the Man in Black comes up the cliff and they start the fight, it's unspoken. They both start left-handed, and then
and they're both right-handed.
Yeah, and they're both right-handed, and it's like, one thing I didn't tell you, I'm actually right-handed. He switches hands, and then Man in Black says, I'm right-handed too, and it gets more intense, and they talk about different styles of fighting, which I really liked. It was really fun, start to finish.
And the other thing I love about this, especially with the sword fights too, there's dialogue in the sword fight. It's not just it's not just grunting and trying to fight. It's the two of them are having a conversation, but they're having this epic sword fight at the same time.
Yeah.
You spoke of a few sword fights. The first one being obviously the one between Wesley and Inigo, and the two of them are talking about the different techniques and everything. But then you're learning about a little bit about their past, about how they're both kind of master swordsmen and that type of thing.
Yeah.
But then later on, when Inigo is battling Count Rugen and going to kill him, he's repeating his line over and over again and basically bitch slapping him with his sword, which is awesome and so such a huge victory for him, because you learn about how that's such a struggle for him throughout the whole movie and how he's his goal of revenge to avenge his father's death and everything. But seeing it come to fruition is so cool.
One thing that I really liked about that fight is it starts with a throwing knife to Inigo's gut, and he's put down, and then he comes in and he's going to finish him, and he takes 2 stabs at Inigo, and Inigo blocks them, but he deflects them both into each shoulder. So he doesn't completely block them, he just deflects them, but he's still wounded. And then he comes back and gives what's his name again?
Count Rugen.
Yeah, Count Rugen, the same injuries that he himself sustained, including the 2 slices on the cheeks that he got when he was a kid. Yeah. I like that he came back and just persevered.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got to bring this up too, because I absolutely love Peter Falk as the grandfather.
Oh yeah,
so perfect. I mean, I could not think of anyone else playing that role. And speaking of other people playing roles, did you know that originally for Vizzini, the inconceivable guy, guess, I don't know if you read the trivia, but
I haven't.
Okay, don't look at.
I'm not.
Guess who they originally wanted to play him? I'll give you a hint. Similar stature. So a similar stature, kind of short, pudgy.
That's Billy Crystal?
No. Billy Crystal's tall and thin. The guy that's built similarly to Wallace Shawn. I think it's Wallace Shawn. Is it the guy who played him?
Yeah, Wallace. Yeah.
They originally thought they were originally
Danny DeVito?
They were originally going to have Danny DeVito play that role.
Danny DeVito would have been as far smaller than Wallace Shawn. That would have been great. I think that would have changed the tone of the role.
You think so? I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Danny DeVito. I think he's hilarious. I could not. I mean, maybe it's just because I'm I love this movie so much. I don't think I could see anybody but Wallace Shawn playing that role.
Well, you may be, and this is a fun game I like to play sometimes too, is how would this role be different if this different actor played it? And usually when I play this game, it's Nicolas Cage. Like,
of course.
How would this role be different if Nicolas Cage played it?
What's his name? Kevin Bacon.
Oh, Kevin Bacon.
But no, Kevin Bacon doesn't belong anywhere near this movie.
Well, do you think that your perception is colored by roles Danny DeVito has already played, like Penguin and Batman? The
Twins.
I haven't thought about Twins in a long time.
Yeah, I mean,
Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Or Ruthless People.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's because I've always seen Danny DeVito as this kind of smart aleck Northeastern guy. And I can't remember if he's originally from New York or New Jersey or I forget where he's from, but he's got that like, yeah, what are you doing? What are you going over there? You know, like I can't imagine him portraying someone like Vizzini. You know, like, yeah, it's inconceivable. You know, like I can't see him delivering those lines with that same intent and that same style.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, but then again, they could have rewritten the part for him. You know, they could have taken some of those words out or you know, revised it so it wasn't so Wallace Shawnee, if that makes sense.
No, that does make sense. I can see it. I can see Danny DeVito delivering those lines, and maybe not in the same cadence, of course,
right.
But I can see a whimsicalness to Danny DeVito, a Danny DeVito performance that may not rival Wallace Shawn's, but would be just as good, just as memorable.
I believe it. I mean, because Danny DeVito is such a good actor.
Yeah, and he's had a wide-ranging. He's had such a variety of different roles. Also, have you ever seen War of the Roses? Him,
no.
Michael Douglas, and I'm probably getting this wrong. Diane Keaton, maybe.
No. Or did you see him in Death to Smoochie?
Yes, love Death to Smoochie.
We got to do that on the podcast too.
Yeah.
We got to do Death to Smoochie, and Danny DeVito was also in this movie called The Heist, where it was him. Gene Hackman was in it. Delroy Lindo was in it. I'm trying to think of a few other It's a great heist movie.
Bank heist.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it's a little bit different, but yeah, the gist is kind of like it's a bank heist type of thing. But Danny DeVito was in there, but he was good in that. But
yeah, back to Princess Bride though.
Yes.
You guys?
No, go ahead.
I got nothing.
Well, that's the end of the episode. Thanks for listening. So, yeah, this is one of those movies I could easily watch over and over again. And
well, you asked me what my favorite part was. What's your favorite part of this film?
Well, I have a few. One of them, obviously, I love the sword fights. I love the exchanges between Wesley and Inigo during the sword fights. But I would probably say one of my many favorite scenes is that last sword fight between Inigo and Count Rugen. And just how Mandy Patinkin does such a brilliant job in portraying just how heavy and how driven he is to avenge his father's death. And I remember when I watching it as an adult, I really could feel how I could feel his victory when he finally killed Count Rugen, and he looks him in the eyes, and he says, offer me anything I want, or offer me anything, and then or offer me power, and then Count Rugen says, all that I have and more, offer me whatever I want, and then he goes, I'll give you anything, and then he says, I want my father back, you son of a bitch, and then he stabs him and kills him. Like, oh, it's such a powerful scene.
Yeah. Do you have any lowlights?
Lowlights. I have to think about that for a second. Do you?
Yeah. The fire swamp scene where they're walking through, I liked pretty much all of that except for the fight with the unusually large rodents.
I was actually just thinking the same thing, because when I remember when I was younger and I would watch this, I would fast forward through his battle with the rodent, because I just felt like it. I mean, it's watching it now, it doesn't feel that long. It's 45 seconds or so, or a minute or so, but I wish the entire fire swamp thing was about half as long.
Yeah, it's just the rodent battle itself. I like the exposition, the backstory that you get from Wesley. It's like, well, I went to search for my fortune. I got on this ship. A pirate came and captured me, and blah, 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 and all that backstory. I thought that was great. And then the quicksand happened. We had a small discussion about quicksand and how Hollywood, there's no such thing as quicksand the way Hollywood portrays it.
Right.
And that was fun. But it's the rodent battle itself. And I think my main gripe with it is Buttercup's inaction. She's watching Wesley roll around on this ground with this rodent of unusual size, and she has this branch in her hand at one point, and Wesley's getting bit up.
Yeah.
And she's just standing there, like, throw a kick, do something, help this guy.
And it seems like she doesn't do anything until the rodent starts going for her. Yeah. And then she realizes, oh, I have to do something or I'm going to get eaten too. Oh my God.
Yeah.
She finally starts just gently clubbing the thing with whatever it was she was holding. But there's definitely a good noticeable moment where she's literally just standing there and watching this whole event go down.
Yeah. And listen, I get it. This is a movie based off of a book. There's suspension of disbelief. You're mainly focused on the hero's journey. All of that aside, her she's a strong-willed woman,
right? And
she don't take no shit from nobody, especially the Plumperdink. It really irked me that she just stood there and just watched Wesley wrestle this rodent and didn't at least try to help.
Right, but let me also add to that, because during the entire fire swamp sequence, she was pretty much letting Wesley do all the work. And just kind of walking there, minding her own business. She didn't seem like she was contributing anything. So maybe she was used to being pampered or being cared for, or maybe that was just Wesley's thing. Like, I will get you through the fire swamp.
Yeah.
I will do everything, and you will just tag along. Like, I don't know if that was the thing, but that rodent fight was the first real time where she had to sort of fend for herself.
Yeah, and I get that. And the fire spouts that came up, I understand her not being used to that kind of thing. Wesley being the more adventurous of the two,
right?
Being able to figure it out and guiding her away from those.
Yeah.
The lightning sand, her falling into that, anybody could have made that mistake. It looks like solid ground. I'm gonna step and I fall down in this pit. Wesley thinks quickly and dives in, saves her. All of that I can forgive. It's just Wesley rolling around on the ground, wrestling this thing, getting chewed the fuck up.
Right.
Like his arm got gnawed. He took a burn to his shoulder, and she just kind of sat there and watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And until it came after her, and then she kind of hit it a little bit on the nose with a stick.
Yeah, it's almost like she was just
Yeah.
lightly tapping it with the stick. So
yeah, not to beat a dead rodent of unusual size, but
nice.
That's my only low light. Everything else was funny. It was whimsical.
Yeah.
It was action packed. It had everything. I loved it.
Yeah.
Much like Fred Savage by the end.
Yes. Yeah. Fred Savage finally warmed up to the kissing stuff. And to be honest, I'm trying to come up with my own low light, and other than the rodent fight, there's really a lot of that fire swamp stuff I'm just not interested. It loses me a little bit in there, but not enough for me to even deduct points when we get to the numbers. But
sure,
it's just because this whole movie is so fun to watch, and I like the dynamic between all the characters, because there's that element of whimsy and that element of fun that takes it away from a serious romance drama. There's enough comedy in there to where someone watching it for the romantic aspect is not going to be disappointed, but also someone who doesn't like romantic movies is going to enjoy it because of the sword fighting and the comedy and the the action that's in there. It's like the perfect date night movie.
Besides Billy Crystal, I would say that all the comedy in this film is all physical. It's all visual gags. I think back to and Billy Crystal had plenty of his own physical comedy. His makeup, his wife's makeup, them kind of having that argument running around the room.
Yeah,
so funny. One thing that stood out to me was when Wesley was killed, brought back to life, and then they were outside. They were on the wall looking over to see the entrance, and they were planning on how to get back in, and Wesley was still getting his strength back, and Andre the Giant had his hand on his head and trying to keep Wesley's head up because it kept lolling back and forth, and it was done and beat, and it was so well timed. It was so funny. I just love that kind of stuff.
And interestingly enough, in the trivia, I read that apparently Andre the Giant spoke very little English, and Rob Reiner had recorded all of Andre the Giant's lines, and basically Andre the Giant walked around the set with headphones on and learned how to say all his lines phonetically.
Oh, wow. Didn't know that.
Yeah. So, because you notice he's got a very, very thick accent.
Oh, yeah. It's difficult to understand him at points.
Yeah, yeah. But he's still... I think he was smart enough to know that even if he was learning his lines phonetically, he still understood what they meant, so he still could act as well as... he was saying those things. So, it's a shame that it's a shame that he passed away. But he
was great.
Such a great guy.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to bring up? Or are we ready for numbers?
I love the storytelling aspect of it. The grandfather coming over.
Yeah.
Reading his grandson the story. That was really nice. But yeah, I can't think of anything else that we haven't really already covered.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm gonna say I highly recommend this movie.
Oh yeah, I would definitely recommend this movie
100%.
to anyone. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, great also. It's worth a watch if you've never seen this before.
Right, and it's one of the trivia said it's on one of those like 1001 movies you must watch before you die.
Oh, there is a list of that. Is that on this list?
Yeah. According to the trivia, it was.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So.
Well, maybe that's a list we can transition to.
I'm down for that.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't have things like Persona on it.
Oh man, I can't wait to watch another bad movie with you, because just watching you squirm sometimes, and then the aftermath when we talk about it, it's so funny.
Or the looking at the timer to see how long the movie is.
Yeah, man.
And this movie did not feel like it dragged at all.
No, it went really quickly.
Yeah, and you know, what was it? What was the runtime? Like an hour 40, something like that?
It felt like about 90 minutes.
Hour 38 actually, according to IMDb. So, it flows nicely.
Yeah,
it flows nicely. So, let's do the numbers. And by numbers, if those of you that are just joining us for the first time here on the Casual Movie Club, welcome.
Welcome.
We're happy to have you as a part of the wonderful club. And what we do, if you go to our website, casualmovieclub.com, click on leaderboard, you can see what our scores are for the movies that we have watched and rated so far. So we have our 6 criteria: the acting, so the quality of the acting; the script, how well was the script written, that's the quality of the writing; the presentation, kind of a technical approach to the editing and visual effects, you know, how well was it the movie captured and portrayed technically. Music and sound, pretty much talking about everything you hear. So the soundtrack, the music, sound effects, the score, you know, the uniqueness. Has this been done before? And then the engagement factor. How likely are you to stay engrossed in this movie, stay awake, stay pulled in while watching this movie? So on a scale of 1 to 5, I am going to start the acting with a 5.
With a 5?
Yep. I'm giving it. I'm just starting right out with a 5.
Justify yourself, sir.
Well, I just can't think of anyone else having portrayed these roles and delivered those performances the way that these people did. You know, I was earlier I was talking about how, you know, Mandy Patinkin portraying the role of Inigo Montoya. And by the way, Mandy Patinkin is an American guy. He pulled off a fantastic Spanish accent.
Yes.
You know, I genuinely felt he did really well with just portraying that inner struggle of his, you know, the death of his father. Andre the Giant not really being much of an actor, and his commitment to, you know, learning the lines and delivering those lines and acting the way that he did. You know, Cary Elwes, you know, being a seasoned British actor, you know, and the work that he did with the sword play and everything. Like, I think it was brilliantly done.
Yeah. I loved all of the performances. If I had anything negative to say about any of the performances, it was Humperdinck. Plinkerdink. This guy, he was a bad guy.
But remember, we're talking about the quality of the acting, not the part.
Sure.
The part of Humperdinck's a prick.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
But the only negative thing I could say about him is that the actor himself felt interchangeable. Put another good-looking guy in there in his place. If he delivered the same lines, he was good because he was bland. He was cocky and bland. There was nothing behind him. He was.
I think that's exactly who the person is, though.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Yeah.
That aside, that's my only negative comment that I have about any acting. But that's a testament to this actor of how he portrayed that role.
Yeah.
That being said, I give the acting a 5.
Good.
Don't good me.
I was getting worried.
Don't good me.
I was getting worried. I thought you were going to be like, oh, because of that, it's a 4.5.
No. My favorite performances, and you can't have one without the other, the Fred Savage grandfather role.
Oh, yeah.
Fred Savage, it's difficult for a child actor to pull off a believable emotion, believable interest in the kind of subject that, and the kind of situation that he's put in. He's sick. He could play video games all day, whatever, but his grandfather comes over and is reading him this boring fantasy book. and the two just gelled. It felt natural. My favorite performances.
I could not agree more, and I loved how right at the very end, as he's walking out of the room, and he said, Fred Savage says, "Can you come and read it to me again tomorrow?" And he just turns to the camera and he says, "As you wish."
Yeah,
that is like classic Peter Falk.
Beautiful.
Totally beautiful. So,
yeah.
All right, good. Script. How did you like the quality of the writing, the quality of the script?
Quality writing was fantastic. Every line uttered was believable. My favorite, I guess, lines or dialogue that was written for the characters was Max the Magician, or Billy Crystal and his wife. I love the sarcastic, jilted, fired employee. It was it was beautiful. It was fantastic, and it was executed well also.
Yeah.
Everything else was great. Was great. If I'm going to score this, I'm probably going to give it a 4, just because it felt very by the numbers. There wasn't anything that blew me away dialogue wise. It was all as expected.
Okay.
It was great. I loved it.
Just a 4?
I'd give it a 4.
No decimals?
No decimals.
Okay.
You disagree.
That's okay. That's fine.
Tell me why.
And that's fine. You did make a good point that it was very by the numbers. It was very literally by the book.
Yeah.
So, there was nothing that was overly amazing, but the quality of the writing meshing with the quality of the acting, I think there's a better hand-in-handness to go there. So I'm not going to give it a 5. I am going to give it a 4.5. I'm going to kick it up a little bit. Presentation, the technical approach to things, use of visual effects, I think it was right on par with where it needed to be. I don't think there was nothing that blew me away. So, it's not going to get a 5 for this, but, there was nothing that blew me away. It was appropriate. The sword play and everything. That's more of the acting, but the capturing, the camera angles, the visualizations, I have nothing bad to say about it. I'm just going to go with a 4. We'll go to 4.25.
4.25?
Yep.
I really enjoyed the look of the rats, the rodents of unusual size.
Really?
They were monsters.
Yeah.
They were in a swamp that was known to be filled with monsters, and they looked the part.
Yeah.
The quote unquote special effects, what they did with Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
In the cloak and the fire,
yeah.
all that stuff. Jumping out of the window at the end, also, it doesn't seem like a big thing, but when Princess Buttercup jumped out the window and her shimmery dress was just kind of just made her look like she was just floating down into Andre the Giant's arms. It all came together very well for me. I'd probably meet you at 4.25.
Cool.
With that.
Awesome. All right. So music and sound.
For me, a good musical score is something that I don't notice, and it engages me more in the story and what I'm watching, and I rarely notice the music.
Okay.
So for me, that way it didn't detract from what I was watching, and it pulled me more into the story.
Nice.
I couldn't whistle you the theme of this movie.
Yeah.
And to me, if I'm watching something and the music if I'm paying attention to the music more than the acting or more than the visual effects, then there's something wrong. I'll give this a 4.5.
Okay. Cool. So now music and sound, I'm going to be a little bit more critical on this, mainly because now Mark Knopfler of the Dire Straits is actually the one who scored this.
Oh, yeah,
which I found really interesting. The music sounds artificial. it sounds synthesized. And it is, because it's not. If you listen to orchestral music and then you listen to the soundtrack to this, it's clearly obvious that this is digital. It's synthesized. It's done with, maybe samples of orchestral instruments, but not. There was not a real orchestra recorded professionally and synced up to the. It was done with synthesizers. So. But it was synthesizers made to sound like orchestral music. So that was a little bit of a detractor for me. Excuse me, not much, but a little bit. I thought the other elements of the audio, sound effects and everything were brilliantly done. So, I'm actually just going to go with a straight up 3.75.
Cool. I want to wait till after your score. I don't want to influence your score at all.
Yeah.
Synthesized music is Dire Straits' wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And it's also of the time.
Go on.
Knowing that, would that influence you at all?
No, because other movies that came out in the 1980s had orchestral scores.
Yeah, plenty of films. Yeah.
The only other thing I can think of is there's a composer named Vangelis who has he's written for a few movies, and he did a movie called The Bounty, which with Anthony Hopkins and Mel Gibson, which I hope we get to do that, because it's a long movie, but it's a fantastic movie. I'm pretty sure he scored that one, and it's the same type of thing where there's a lot of synth work and a lot of synth strings and everything. But with what this movie is, being kind of a fairy tale and kind of that type of a movie, mm-hmm. I think I would have liked an orchestral type of a sound instead of a more synthesized sound. But that being said, uniqueness. So has this movie been done before? I mean, yeah, because it's kind of a classic fairy tale. But what makes it unique, though, is I think the relationship between the grandfather and the grandson, and telling it as having him read the book, and that sort of their little dynamic outside of the world of Florin and Gilder and everything, and then kind of going into the fairy tale, and then coming back out to them talking about the story, and kind of, I think that's kind of cool. And I know that's not the first time it's been done, but it's close enough to where I would give the uniqueness a 4.
Yeah, there are other films that came out around this time that were similar. I'm drawing a blank right now. One that came out after that kind of parodied this was Men in Tights by Mel Brooks. But the one that I think is similar, the most similar that I can think of, is probably Ladyhawke with Michelle Pfeiffer. I want to say Harrison Ford. Who is in Ladyhawke?
I haven't seen that, but Men in Tights is a great movie. But that I don't see that as having that same sort of, kind of going in and out of the story the way that, the grandfather-grandson thing works out. Where they're completely out of the story. Then you go into the story for a while. Then you go out. Then you go back in.
Yeah, and I kind of hesitate to compare any parody movie to a movie that's taking itself seriously, I suppose.
Yeah.
Ladyhawke is it's a Matthew Broderick is who I was thinking of, and Michelle Pfeiffer. That is a 1985 film, and it's really about it's about two people that it's like a guy trying to get his princess or whatever, but they're both enchanted. So one turns into a hawk during the day, and then at night the other one turns into a wolf. So they're trying to be together, but they can't be together. That's similar enough. I don't know. Maybe it feels like I'm reaching here. There are other movies that feel like this, but there's no other movie that I can think of that's exactly like this.
Yeah.
I would give this a 4.5 for uniqueness.
Okay. All right, and then
that's really a difficult category sometimes.
It is, but I think that's good.
Huh.
How about the engagement factor? How engaging do you find this movie?
Well, like I said at the top of the show, this is a really good movie to sit down and watch start to finish, and you can. It's easy to just watch start to finish and not be distracted. I mean, as long as your phone's off or do not disturb or whatever, you can just sit down and watch it. And I've never felt bored watching this film. But again, this is also a film that you can get up and do things and still enjoy it for what it is. For engagement factor, because of that, I'd put this at 4.5, 4.5.
Right on. I am going to. I'm going to meet you at 4.5 as well because, it's, and maybe again it's just because how much I've seen it. How much I've seen it. I may be. No, I'm not going to go to the full 5 because I was, looking at my phone and everything, and I've seen it so many times. But if I would think that if I were watching this for the first time, I would be pulled in.
Yeah.
A lot. So I feel good about that. So, and looking at these numbers here, I've been speaking so highly about how much I love this movie, but our averages wise, you scored it higher than I did.
Really?
Yes. And I think the music. Yeah, the music and sound was the detractor for me, but this movie did very well. Total here for Princess Bride, our scores are going to be as follows. Acting is 5, script 4.25, presentation 4.25, music and sound 4.13, uniqueness 4.25, and sleep factor 4.5 for a grand total average of 4.40.
Yeah, we've got a new number 1, baby.
Yes. All right, Princess Bride is taking over the top spot from The Lion King, which is going to put Lion King at 2nd place, Wrestler at 3rd, Raging Bull at 4th, Dennis the Menace at 5th, and Persona, where it belongs, in dead last. So if you want to check out our ratings, you can always go to casualmovieclub.com, click on leaderboard, and read those ratings there. You can always interact with us as well on in many different places, Instagram and Twitter. Our handles there at Casual Movie Club. You can also give us a call, leave us a voicemail, and we would be happy to possibly include it on another recording of our podcast. So who wants to be the first to leave us a voicemail?
Or send us a text message. Yeah, you can reach us at 402-882-2742.
Bingo. And we would love to hear from you. You can even just shoot us an email, casualmovieclub@hotmail.com. And I think we've reached the time in our show where we get to pick the next one.
Oh, yeah. Let's get that random number generator between 1 and 250.
And go ahead and get that top 250 list from
IMDb.
Random number between 1 and 250. All right, here we go. 31.
Oh, okay. 31.
I feel like we did 31. That seems familiar.
We did not do 31.
All right, what is it?
This is a recent film.
All right.
2014's Interstellar.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Have you seen it?
I have, but it's been a very long time.
I saw it twice in theaters and haven't seen it since.
Wow. I saw it right after it came out on iTunes, and then it's been a while. So this is going to be great.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Oh, man, I'm excited. This one's going to be good.
Is this the one with Matt Damon?
No, you're close. This is Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, right. All right. All right, cool. Well, on that note, thank you very much again for joining us on the Casual Movie Club. We appreciate it, as always. And if you do like what you hear, please, by all means, feel free to share our website and contact info with anyone that you think would enjoy this. We are on just about every single podcast platform. We did make a quick switch. I just want to let you know as well. We were publishing to SoundCloud. We're no longer publishing new episodes to SoundCloud because they want money from us, apparently.
Oh, boo.
Yeah, so we are now on YouTube instead of SoundCloud. So we're on iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. You can go to casualmovieclub.com, and the links to all of those places are on the very bottom. And we do know that our website loading is a little bit of an issue, so we're looking into that. But for now, if you just give it a little bit extra time, it will load up and have all our content on there for you. And then, of course, you can find us by searching as well. If you listen to other podcasts on any of those platforms, you can just go search for us too.
Just Google us.
Actually interesting. Somebody told me they found us by Googling, and it took them to Stitcher. So
nice.
Either way, all that aside, thank you for listening. We appreciate it. And at some point, we'll have ourselves an intro. But until then, see ya.
See you next time.